Riffical Records presents the East-West Vinyl Analysis with your hosts Mark Anthony Kay and Ken Keenan. Greetings, friends, and welcome once again to episode number 3 of the East-West Vinyl Analysis. That's right, you didn't have to wait nearly as long as last time, as we promised you. So, once again, it is me. In the East, Mark Anthony Kay, and in the West, we have our good friend Ken Keenan. Hello, Ken.
Hey, Mark. Glad to be back finally.
Yes, and as we promised and kept good on our promise, we didn't wait nearly as long this time to do it. And we will, again, this time be going back with our very well-received format of the 3 albums that we feel everyone should have in their vinyl collection. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, you're a loser or something if you don't have it, but these are just like records that we feel that, you know, most people who like music or collect records should probably own these, you know. And they don't have to be super hard to find. They could be records that are quite easy to find. And usually the ones that should be in most people's collections are the ones that are popular, right? But with that said too, there's always once in a while a record that we have that we can recommend that is not necessarily an easy to find record as well. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I mean, you know, music is it's an art form and it's a taste. Everyone likes different things, and we're coming from our point of view. But I think, from my standpoint, you know, I like music that's, you know, catchy, melodic, and so I figure, most people do. Hopefully there's maybe an album that maybe a person doesn't know about, or artist they never heard of. They might get turned on to and you know, take a shot at and listen to their music.
Exactly. Very well said. So with that said, let's not delay the fine watchers any longer, and let us begin. So, who wants to go first? You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Why not?
Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to go chronologically, I guess, by year. But my first one is going to be, and, you know, people know this artist and artist name. It's Elvis Costello. And this is actually a promo copy of
Nice.
Armed Forces, his 4th album, 1978. You can see it's a promo. I still have the wrap on it, but it has the hype sticker still. 2 hype stickers, and then underneath actually there's sometimes they put the radio type sticker there for the, you know, they would mark, maybe put a checkbox like this song you should listen to, or that one, to help the DJs when they're playing the music. But this album is my favorite Elvis Costello album. I don't know. I mean, people could tell it's different, maybe the first 1 or 2 albums, but this one is like pop perfection to me. So again, catchy songs on this one, and let me pull it out here. And by the way, and you may know too, it was produced. I like the actually back cover better, to tell you the truth.
Cool.
And there's a promo stamp on there, but this is produced by Nick Lowe, which people may know, and, you know, on his own right is a, you know, recording artist in bands too. So we have our insert, kind of funky looking, crazy kind of
cool,
weird picture, and another one here. Let's get it out here. So this one, since it's a promo, it's a white label promo.
Very nice.
Columbia, and this is in pretty good shape. So it has songs like, you know, Accidents Will Happen. I don't know if some people know this, but to me, the side 1 of this is one of those perfect sides. You know, you have an album where maybe not the whole album's great, or maybe not the whole side of an album, but this side 1, I mean, it's just perfection to me, and great songs with Accidents Will Happen, and then Senior Service, which probably people don't know if you're not an Elvis Costello. Oliver's Army is like one of my favorite songs of his. I mean, it's just fantastic. Big Boys is another great song. Green Shirt, another good song. I mean, these are songs, yeah, like, you know, they weren't released as singles and that sort of thing, but they really, you know, they could have been. They're that good. And then Party Girl, which probably people know Party Girl, which also, if you look at Linda Ronstadt covered and made it a single of her own too, as a matter of fact. So this is a great album. The other thing is, yes, even the second side, even if it's not perfect, but I think it's still, you know, great stuff. I can just listen to it without skipping, of course. With Goon Squad, Busybodies, Moods for Moderns. I mean, you got 6 songs on the back side here. All right, so the last song on side 2 is actually written by the producer, Nick Lowe, which is What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding, which is a very good song in its own right, and it's a cool song. So, and let's, you know, hey, it's a good thought to have. And the other thing about this album, and I think on the early releases of the albums, I have it here still. Yeah. It came with a 7-inch.
Oh, nice.
Single. And here it is here. And on this was, I think they're live from I remember. They got Accidents Will Happen and Allison. And let me make sure there's nothing. Yeah, it's live at Hollywood High, of all places.
What year was this record?
1978. Yeah.
Interesting. Because Yes released the greatest hits, and they did the same thing with a 7-inch.
Yeah, sometimes they do that. Watching the Detectives is on the other side, which is a good song. That's a real good song too. So that's the Elvis Costello album. I recommend it. I mean, if you like catchy, it's kind of new wave-ish. You know, it's pop. It's just good stuff. I really enjoy it. Like I said, the first side is it's like perfect.
So for people like me who are not familiar with Elvis Costello music, would you say, like, what would you say is a close comparison? Like, who do you think that they would be good to compare with? I keep hearing people talking about, like, you know, like that U2, for example, love Elvis Costello. Are they kind of similar in style, or?
No, I don't think they're similar in style at all. Maybe when U2 tries to do more poppy kind of tune, possibly.
Okay.
But they're it's different. They don't sound. I'm sorry to. Who does Elvis Costello sound like, Jimmy? I don't know. He just sounds like Elvis Costello. I mean, it's, you know, it could be closer to even to a degree the Cars or something, I guess, but that's kind of stretching it. He's a little bit more, you know, almost punkish, but not punkish. He doesn't go that far, but it's more new wave, you know.
Okay, cool. So maybe more to do with a Blondie than a U2.
That's probably a good one. That's probably closer to Blondie. Exactly.
Cool. All right, great. So that's a very interesting pick. And see, this is what I like about this kind of podcast, is that this kind of makes me now curious to go out and check out this record, because, you know, I've never heard it, so, you know, why not check it out?
Oh, yeah.
So for my first one, which is interesting pick, because I first heard this band in 1989 when they released their first record. They were the opening band of 4 when they were touring, and the headliner was Aerosmith at the time, and Metallica was on right before them, which is very interesting. The Warrant was before them, which was really interesting because they got booed off stage. People were giving them the finger the whole time. And the first band up was these guys. Now, they went over okay, they didn't get booed off or nothing, but their music was kind of like, nah. Because let's put it this way. Before I show you who it is, I'll just say that basically I wasn't too hip into the kind of blues rock at that time. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. I've heard this 1,000 times. But when they released their second record, something about it really clicked. I got their cassette of this from Columbia House, and I put it in my car and listened to it on a really long drive I took once, and I thought this really connected with me. And that is, let's get this out here so we don't get no huge glare here. The Black Crowes.
Okay.
This is their second record.
Nice.
Called The Southern Harmony and Musical Companion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a double vinyl reissue of the record.
Oh, okay.
And there they are in the back, looking all southernly and, you know, kind of I think what they were going for is my generation's Rolling Stones. Pretty much what they were trying to do. Right. Now, the first single I believe off of this was Remedy. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you remember that song, but that...
I know it. Yeah.
I kind of remember hearing it, and I was thinking to myself, oh, this is not bad. But it was the opening song in this that really got me, which was called Sting Me, which is a really kind of upbeat, open G tuning kind of, you know, very Keith Richards guitar sounding song. And I remember that the more I listened to this, I really got that kind of deep South America vibe off it. And those are the kind of records that I always seem to connect with. And I don't know if you remember, Ken, we've done when we did our Kiss podcasts, that I always seem to connect with even Kiss records that have a vibe that bring me someplace. Sure. Like how I used to say Dynasty reminds me of New York City. Yeah. So this record does that for me in quite a large way, you know, because it's rock and roll. Now that I've, you know, matured musically and all that as well, I've really grown to love, you know, the Hammond B3 organs and those kind of open tunings now more in that kind of gritty southern rock, and it's really good, you know. And I find it's a very strong record. Now the interesting thing, as I pull out one of the vinyls here, is that when they released the reissues of this has been reissued a few times now. The first time that this record got reissued, there was quite a bit of brouhaha going on because people were saying, oh, you know, they didn't remaster it good and it sounds like shit, right? I don't know if you can see that at all decently.
Yeah, I see it. Good. Nice.
Okay. Now this one is another reissue that came after that. There was like a first reissue of this that was done a few years back.
Yeah.
And that one was frowned upon. Now this one, and I think because that was a single album, I believe, of it. And if it wasn't, then it was just the way they mastered it sounded terrible. But this one was done at Capitol by Ron McMaster. And he's done a lot of the Black Sabbath reissues that came out. And he's done a lot of, you'll see he has the little RM in the dead wax when you look in there. And this one, like, quieted all the audio files. They're like, okay, this one's good. We're sorry, this record is good. You know, it wasn't recorded shit or anything like that, right? So, just to make a long story short, this album, if you're gonna get this one that's on the American label here, and get the one that's done by Ron McMaster. If you go on Discogs, you'll see.
So, question. So they spread that out on that full album onto 2 discs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking that either the reason why people frowned on it, because I don't have the first reissue of it. Now, I'm guessing either they did something retarded and tried to put it all on one record, which some people have done, like the Hysteria, for example, was actually released the first time on vinyl on one record. Now, if you can imagine, that's a 60-minute record. That meant that there was like 30 minutes of music on each side, which is like a big no-no in the vinyl pressing, sort of business, right?
It's possible.
So,
isn't it possible that they did the first one with maybe they didn't use the analog tapes and they did digital kind of thing.
That's also possible too, because I know that when a lot of bands, when the reissuing fad started, were doing that. I mean, that's why if you take a look at even for us Kiss people, Kiss Alive, there's that Back in Black reissue of it that came out, and people always say no, stay away from that one. It's terrible. The art's terrible. It's not in focus. Even the artwork on the front, like, it's just a really bad. And it was a quick sort of, capitalizing on the vinyl resurgence sort of release.
Yeah.
So, and that was probably also done via digital master, right? Which is a big no, right? So if you're gonna get this one. I believe it is like the most recent reissue, I believe, that the Black Crowes did of that one, and it's really good. It sounds good, and if you like Black Crowes music, and if you like Rolling Stones style rock, then this will be right up your alley.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'm aware of some of their work, their music, not all of it, so I haven't heard all of it. So I'll be interested to hear some of the other songs, that are on their albums. That sounds interesting to me. And I kind of like that Southern vibe too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you get deeper into it, you know how it is. Usually when the record is good, even the deep cuts later on to the record, sometimes they hold the biggest gems because they're not as much pressure to be singles at that point.
Right.
And they can do what they want, and they turn into some really, really great played out music. So yeah, there you go. Black Crowes. So what's your numero 2?
Numero 2 is and it's a well-known group, and probably a lot of people do have this album or maybe heard the album. But I just like it because it's my favorite one by this band. So the band is the Cars. And it's and we kind of mentioned the Cars a little earlier too. It's their second album, called Candio. It came out in 1979. I remember I had their first album when this one came out, but I seem to enjoy this one more than, even though the first one is so good too. There's no sophomore slump, as it happens to some bands. They kind of shoot everything. All their best stuff is in their first album. Then the next one they kind of ran out of material. But that's not the case. And this album is really, really good. It came out in 79, like I said, second album. This is a remastered version that I have in the box set. Actually, you can probably see it behind me. That it came out of that Cars box set of their vinyl. And let's pull it out here. And by the way, it's I believe it's produced by Roy Thomas Baker. Yeah, which people probably know.
Yes.
His production history. So let me pull it
Queen.
Up. Yep, Queen and so on. Lots of people. So this one is a red vinyl.
Ooh,
this one.
Nice.
Each one of those vinyls are a different color that are in that box, but that's it. So this is the red one. I think it's 180 gram. Yeah, it's heavy. But this has just. I remember listening to this back in the summer of '79 a lot. It kind of brings back memories of that time period. But you had "Let's Go," which was a big hit, and "Since I Held You," another song that was on the radio a lot. "It's All I Can Do," another one. This is another one of those, I think, great sides, perfect sides again. Double Live, Shoo-Be-Doo, which is like a 140-minute 41 kind of little short ditty thing. And then Candio, which is a great song. And even the second side is all good, Night Spots. Lust for Kicks, I think, is a great song. Got a lot on my head, Dangerous Type. So, just a fantastic album. Maybe I'll pull out let me put this down here real quick. The inner sleeve on this one. They reproduced this on the remastered version, and it sounds great, by the way. So this side here is all the lyrics.
Yeah.
All the songs on this side here. and then your obligatory picture of the band, of course. Here, so yeah, so this is again, it's a favorite of mine. Here's the back side of the album. I don't know if we showed that, but they replicated it all, and I just again, another great rock, new wave, whatever you want to call it, or new wave I would call it at the time. That's what they called it. But pop perfection again too there with these songs that just sound so great and produced, the musicianship and then the way it's produced by Roy Thomas Baker is just fantastic.
It's very interesting that you brought up this one, because I know that if I'm not mistaken, you're the Vinyl Guide listener like I am.
That's true.
That podcast, and Elliot Easton was just on last week.
I
talking about
to that. Yep.
Yeah, and he was talking about that too, how great those first two records were. And it's funny that you brought that one up, because I was starting to think about going to get it, because after listening to the podcast there, I was thinking, hey, maybe I should check it out.
Yeah.
And now with your sort of second stamp of approval on it there, I think I'll definitely go and grab it. I'm just out of curiosity, Ken, that box set that you bought, was it in the out of reach for most people price range, or is it sort of affordable?
It's affordable. I forget how many albums, and it's their first, I want to say there's six albums or 7 in there. And it's not out of there. I think I got it through Pop Market, if you're aware of Pop Market.
Oh, okay.
And it was a good deal. I think the price, I might have even seen it be lower. So you can get it for easily, I'm gonna say you can get it for $70 or something like that.
Oh, really?
It's because I think the price went down a little. But it's worth it. It's worth the price. All the vinyls are a different color, which is very cool. They're all heavyweight. They're all remastered. So if you like the Cars, or I would definitely get it.
And the interesting thing about this so far, Ken, and for all those people watching, we didn't plan this at all. We never know what records we're going to be showing each other. That record you just showed now, you said is a second release. That's their second album.
Yeah.
The record I just played or showed you before, The Black Crowes, is a second album as well.
That's right. Hold it a second. You're on me. You're
so that's
freezing a little bit. Hold on.
Okay. Am I okay?
I think it's coming back good. Okay. All right.
Okay. The ironic part is that you just showed now a record from a box set that has colored vinyl that are multiple colored. Now we're going to get to my second pick. And it's funny because this came from a box set that also had multiple colored vinyls as well in it.
How about that?
So it's almost like we're in some kind of brain connection here.
There you go.
And my second pick, and this might be something that I'm not sure if you dig or not, and it might be something that most people don't show too often, is Pantera.
Oh, Pantera. Yeah. I'm aware of them, but I haven't bought their music, no.
Now, this is their third record called Far Beyond Driven. And like I said, this came out of a box set that had all their studio records because they're pretty much done as a band. Thanks to Dimebag being killed.
Yeah.
And let me just pull this out here and show you.
So that's the original.
These are all
Well, that's the reissue. That's right, because it's the box set.
From the box set, and you'll see it's a nice blue.
Nice. I like colored vinyl. It's better than black. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't mind black, but I like to have a colored stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think I kind of took some inspiration from this record for my own, as this blue is similar, maybe not as dark, but
yours is nice. I like it.
And the funny thing with this record, a little bit of history about Pantera, they were a band that took, most people say that they were overnight success, which is a far from the truth, because they were together playing in bars for 12 years before they got a record deal. So they'd been a band for a very long time before something happened to them. But then once they made their first record, which was Cowboys from Hell, they hit the ground running, because they had a sound that was totally different than anything that was out at the time as far as guitar sound, and the drums had that really clicky bass drum sound, which now every drummer in metal uses. You have to thank Vinnie Paul for that, the drummer from Pantera, and you have to thank Terry Date, who produced all of their records for that as well, because he had that, he developed that sound with them, and that's very much a sound that everybody wanted to sound like once that record came out. This is the third record. To me, it's one of the most brutal records I've ever heard. It's really heavy. Like and it was one of those records where you can't just go, okay, I'm gonna put it on side one and track 4 and just play it. You have to listen to the thing top to bottom, because the way they sequence this record is like, there's like 1/1,000,000th of a second gap between song 1 and song 2. It just goes right into it, right?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful the way they did it, because the tempo of it, like when it stops, it's like even that 1/1,000,000th of a second is perfectly on beat to the next song.
Oh, wow.
It's so perfectly arranged. It's unbelievable. And I and my old band, we listened to this record all the time. When we went to go record some of our records in Toronto, we would have this on in our car stereo, and the singer at the time had this enormous system in his car. It was like, it shook the whole car. It was so loud. But listening to this in that car was unbelievable. It's like, when they started doing these really heavy grooves in there, you could just feel the air around you moving. It was so heavy. It was like unbelievable how this sounds. So I don't have any other copies of this record to compare to, so I can't really go and say this is the definitive version to buy of it.
Right.
But when I've listened to this copy of it, it sounds incredible. It's one of those ones where I have to make sure that the neighbors are not home, because if I turn it up and play it, they'll probably be like, hey, what the fuck's going on? It's like really heavy, right? So but it's a great record if you like metal. And this also, ironically, has a bit of a southern tinge to it. These guys are from Texas, so they also have a bit of that whole beer swilling and shoot 'em up gung-ho kind of mentality in it as well, right? So if you like that sort of metal, and I mean Pantera were a pretty big and well-known band at that time, so out of all their records, I still have to say that this is my favorite album in their catalog, and I can't speak highly enough of it. So Pantera, Far Beyond Driven, should be in everybody's record collection.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to investigate that one now too. It's like, because I haven't heard, I think I've heard maybe a couple of their songs, and that's it. Otherwise I haven't heard anything else, so I'm gonna have to check it out and see how I like the rest of it. But that's a good thing to do, to check that stuff out, because you never know what you're missing.
Yeah.
There's stuff like I'm going back to stuff now, just as a sidebar here. I was going back to some Stevie Wonder stuff of his early 70s. I was just listening on YouTube of some of his full albums, and it's like, holy cow, he was writing some other great music besides all the hits, but there's other stuff, and I'm like, oh man. So I actually have bought a few of the vinyls from the 70s, early 70s, and I picked up to add to my collection, because it's just so good. So
great. I know Songs in the Key of Life is a pretty
that's one
respected.
Of them. That's the one we're talking. That's a double album, and it's one of the ones I bought. And a couple albums before that were really good. So something to think about. All right, so my third and final here is probably most people won't know, but they may know the song because they've heard it, but they don't know who the artist was that had a hit with it, you know. So this one is Donnie Iris.
Okay, Iris, don't know him.
And this is crazy first album. It's the first album, kind of a crazy album cover. And the band is like Donnie Iris and the Cruisers, they were called. But the song, the song that used to play on there is pretty, I would call it almost hard rock. That was and it was a hit. It was on the radio. It was called Aaliyah.
Okay, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's one of those songs that has a great riff in it, just a great, well-written song, and it, it's catchy, but you don't know who it is, especially if they don't tell you who's playing these songs on the radio. It's like, I like that song, but who the heck does it? But yeah, it was him. Donnie Iris. This is the first album. Now this copy, I have a couple copies. This is a promo copy of his first album, and the deal is on this one they put a sticker here, and I have the other one here. So here's the other one. This is actually on a different label before he got put onto the main label. So this is like a copy, another promo copy, kind of a different
cut corner there.
It's a cut corner too. It's Midwest, called Midwest National. So he was on their their own label or something like that. But the deal about it is this one had the first song on each side switched. So first song down here, Aaliyah, got moved on the real final one, got moved to side one there, and then Agnes got moved down to first song side two. They switched them. I think because they figured Aaliyah was going to be the single, right? And that's why this one then has a sticker. But my original, I don't have anymore because I have to now think about it and maybe buy the other copy that has, after they fixed, because this is how he has the wrong, it's the fixed sequence here on the sticker, but they actually made it look like this on the final copy with the right song sequence. Anyway, so that would be a third one I'd have to get if I want to, be a completist, I guess. But this band is a very good band, very good album, rock album. Aaliyah, like I said, is on there. I mentioned the song Agnes, which is the first song on side two, which is just a fantastic song. Another catchy stuff. There's a song he does on here that reminds me of David Bowie a little bit. Just the way he sings it. It's the tone he sings. He kind of can change his voice a little bit here and there, and actually it's a very good voice, surprisingly. But songs like Agnes, like I said, I Can't Hear You Joking is kind of a goofy, funny song. Shock Treatment is another kind of crazy stuff, but it's all good. Back on the Streets, there's other songs like She's So Wild, songs like Daddy Don't Live Here Anymore, and these are like the last couple songs, and Too Young to Love. It's just well written songs and well performed. The band, now this might strike you as I'm going to tell you the band, some of the people in the band, but the one that sticks out that I think you'll know is drummer Kevin Valentine.
Yes.
So Kevin Valentine, who's had the
Kiss fame.
Kiss connection is played on the Kiss, Psycho Circus, I believe, right?
Correct, sir.
Yeah. So he's on there. You probably don't know the other people. You wouldn't know the other artists on here. There's Mark Avsek and so on. But great. I mean, it's a goofy picture. It's weird. He's losing his clothes on each shot of the picture of himself, and he's down to his briefs or whatever. On the back end, there's a guitar sitting, just a guitar. But it's a great album. And I like his second album, which he had that comes after this. It had a hit, Love Is Like a Rock. If you ever heard that one, that was a...
I'm sure if I heard it, I would recognize it.
Yeah, that was a good song too. Another pretty darn good album. But that's something to look out for. I mean, again, I like the catchy stuff, and there's some really good. I mean, very good standouts. Aaliyah is just a, one of those great songs, and then, like I said, Agnes is another very good, and it's hard crunching guitars. I wouldn't call it.
What year did that come out?
Let's say 80, 81. Let's see here. Do we got it? 1980. Yeah, 1980. I remember the first time I heard Ali on the radio. I'm like, who the hell is that? And I can't remember if the guy actually said, but every time you'd hear someone on the radio, it's like, please say who's playing it this time. Please say it. Who does this song? And most of the time they didn't, but then every once in a while they would tell you, that was, Donnie Iris, like, all right. And then I'd be, off to the record store to search it down. So, yeah.
So it's interesting that your selections were 78, 79, 80 in years.
Yeah.
So
chronological.
It's very interesting. And again, another artist I'm familiar with because I know those songs off the radio, but I don't own any of the albums, so it'll be interesting to check that out further. Now, do you find that that's an easy record to find in the record shops, or harder to find?
In a used record store, you may find it if it's one of those well-populated record stores, or one of the bigger ones that have a lot of various. You might find it. You can easily find it out on somewhere like eBay or Discogs. Mm-hmm. You could easily find it. It's not difficult. It's not like it's one of those ones like it's not like Led Zeppelin 2 with Robert Ludwig, RL on both sides kind of thing. But it should be very simple to find. If you don't see it in a record store, definitely it's out there in other ways online.
Great. Okay, so I'll definitely have to hunt that one down and check it out. At least the first record for sure, just to see how I gravitate to it. Okay, so interesting how you just said that this is a act that most people may not have known.
Yeah.
I'm going to end with my third one as somebody. It's a twosome actually that most people probably won't know, but after I talk a bit about them, you'll be a bit more clear on who they are. Now, just give me 1 second. So I have to just put back the Pantera really quickly back into its case here. But just really quickly, this is a record, I believe it's 1970, if my math is correct.
70, okay.
Yeah. Now, this is a record I really, really love. Now, this is called McDonald and Giles. So that's the front. Now that's Mr. Giles.
Okay.
That's Ian McDonald.
Okay.
Now, Ian McDonald.
I know that name, Ian
familiar,
McDonald. Yeah.
From Foreigner fame.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the interesting thing is those two names. This is a nice gatefold. Those two names will be extremely familiar to people who like King Crimson, because Mr. was the drummer on the very first King Crimson album in the Court of the Crimson King. Ian McDonald, saxophone player on the first King Crimson record and primary songwriter, believe it or not.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, with Robert Fripp. He actually wrote in the Court of the Crimson King.
Oh, wow.
This guy. Now, as we may or may not know, depending on how much you follow King Crimson, after the first tour of America King Crimson did on that first record, the band broke up. Now, when they split, these two guys went off and made this album. And a lot of people say that the songs that are on this record here are songs that could have ended up very easily on the next record. Sweet and Sea, Flight of the Ibis, and there's like The Birdman, which is a whole side long 22-minute piece.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's another song on here called Tomorrow's People, right? Which is another kind of long song that the drummer actually sings. And it's a really, really good album. I mean, when I first got this, I got it because there was a point where I was on a huge King Crimson kick.
Sure.
Where I was buying everything that they had out on, the Steven Wilson reissues, the original CDs, the albums, everything that they had. And then as soon as I started finding out that there was a Giles and Fripp record out before that, I bought that. Then I found out this came out. I bought this on vinyl and on CD. I have this as well. Okay. This is really, really strong. If you like the first King Crimson record, then this will sit nicely on the shelf beside it, because it is just as good, because half the people that were on the first record is right here. And the funny thing is, now let me just humor me for a second. The interesting thing on here is that it says Ian McDonald, guitar, piano, organ, saxes, flute, clarinet, zither, vocals. That's all. And then they have Michael Giles on drums, percussion, including milk bottle, handsaw, lip whistle, and nut box. I don't know what the hell a nut box is.
Yeah.
And vocals. But then you also have Peter Giles, who is the brother of Michael Giles, who played bass guitar. And funny enough, Michael Giles and Peter Giles both appear on the second King Crimson record, In the Wake of Poseidon. So there's still that connection with Robert Fripp on it. So it's very interesting, because you also have Steve Winwood on organ and piano on this as well.
Wow, we got Steve Winwood on it.
So it's a really, really interesting record. I think it sounds fantastic. It was done really well. And I'll show you the vinyl real quick here too. It's on a record label that most Emerson, Lake and Palmer fans will probably be familiar with, which is that Coalition, or
yeah, Cotillion.
Cotillion, there you go. So that's
if that's a C.
Side one.
Yeah. Interesting.
And if you look at side two, there you have the monster opus of Birdman.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is, obviously, it has all the sounds of the 70s at that time, of rather, punchy, dry drum set sound, vocals that are, up here a bit more in your face than they would be later on in years. But if you're interested in hearing how well these songs translate now in years gone past, on YouTube there's a really good video out from the 21st Century Schizoid Band, which is basically those guys, Ian McDonald, Michael Giles on drums, Jacko Jaksic, who's the singer for King Crimson now, on guitar and vocals. And it also has Mel Collins, who's the now saxophone player for King Crimson, and he was in a band called Circus as well, in that same band. So they had dual saxophonists and keyboardists, Jacko on guitar, and Peter Giles on bass, and Michael Giles on drums. They do Crimson songs, and they do 2 or 3 songs off of this record on that, and it's live in Japan, and it sounds dynamite. If you put it through some good speakers on your computer and listen to it, it's a really fantastic concert. And like I said, I can't stress enough that if you're a fan of early King Crimson, then this will be a perfect addition to your discography.
Now, is that album, like you asked me, is that a hard to find record? I haven't seen
over
it.
Here. Yeah, because over here, I lucked out. I found that in one of those bins, like in a store where they have I don't know if they have them in some of the stores that you have, where you have a used section, and it'll say came in today, came in yesterday, and came in the day before. Well, I found that in the came in yesterday section of this, and I've only seen it 2 other times in a record store, so it's not really the easiest record to find, but I'm sure you can find it on Discogs, and it's not overly expensive. Mm-hmm. But it's just difficult to find because I'm guessing that they haven't really I don't think they've reissued it on vinyl.
Probably not.
So if you're going to find it, you're going to find that 70s pressing of it, right? But, if you're willing to take a chance and look on Discogs or eBay for it, you will find it there, I can guarantee you. And it's worth it. I think that you would enjoy it. I would be willing to bet a $5 that if you bought it, you would enjoy it.
Okay. Wow. Okay. You bet a $5.
I'd bet a $5.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. So there you go. So we have 3 excellent records that we each kind of picked out. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to say that I'm going to be checking out the ones that you've presented because I'm always curious to hear how these records turn out. Yeah. With that said, I'm going to go on record here and say that our next episode 4, will not be a long wait again. I'm getting into the vibe of this now with the whole doing these kind of podcasts, so I'm sure that Ken will be anxious to do it as well. But next time, what I'm thinking about doing is either we'll do another 3 records one again, or we might do an episode on maybe focusing on 2 or 3 records from a specific band that we like.
Okay.
And pick out the 2 or 3 best records from that artist's catalog. So keep that in mind, and keep an eye out. Usually you'll see us on YouTube, which is usually where I plant all these fine episodes. And I think that's it for now. Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Nothing else. It was fun looking at these albums, and I'm interested in hearing some of the music that from your 3 that you had shown here today. So I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, cool. All right. So on that note, we will leave you now, and until the next time that we see you, this is Mark Anthony K. and Mr. Ken Keenan saying thank you for watching, and we will be back again very soon. Bye for now.